Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this special video where I'm going to be sharing some holistic tips to work with this amazing cycle that we're right in the middle of. We're just starting actually. And this is the nodal shifts into Taurus and Scorpio. And I'm a big fan of working with astrology because it's nature's cycles. It interprets everything in a very deeply spiritual, but also very practical way. And this is what I want to bring today. I want to share some of my thoughts about how you can make the most out of the next 18 months. There's been a lot of change already since 2020, and now I'm making this right at the beginning of 2022. And we're going to see even more changes. But the good news is, I think it's going to start really grounding us downwards. So I think this is a really good time to start getting very crystal clear about how we can tune into this energy and make the most of it, not just for the next 18 months, but for even the next decade, because it's really planting some seeds. And we're going to start off by talking about what the North and the South Node is. So I will leave a full information in the description box. So if you want to read more about the technical stuff, I'm not an astrologer, even though I use it in my work for many different things. But all that information will be in the description box. So anytime you need extra references about this information that I'm giving you, please feel free to look there. And essentially, if I had to say what the North and the South Node is, basically it's around every 18 months or so, a year and a half or so, the North Node and the South Node changes their signs, the lunar nodes. And what this does is it's like an invitation for us to go deeper into our Dharma, which is our North Node, the energy that we want to head towards as a collective on a personal level, and the things we want to release in our South Node, which is about the karma, which is about looking at all the spiritual lessons and the cycles and the things we finally want to break free from. So it's about finding that balance, but moving towards the North Node. And since 2020, we've had a lot of different fast energy because the North Node, the energy we were moving towards, was in Gemini. And Gemini is a very fast moving sign. It's all about the mind, it's about information, it's about local environments. Think about all the things we've been going through from 2020 to 2022. To do with information, to do with how our technology had to adapt, how we had to stay more local, which is Gemini energy. It's been also very restrictive in that area because we had to focus so much more on all the facts and information and details and news and media, and asking us to really look at what it is that we want to consume, especially on a mental level. And then in the South Node, we had Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is about long distance travel. So obviously there were a lot of restrictions on that, and maybe more to come, but hopefully not. Sagittarius is also about our belief systems. It's about teachers and gurus. So also looking at our sources of information, our belief systems, our sources of information. And as Sagittarius is a very expansive energy, we had to let go of a lot of things that maybe before we took for granted in terms of our freedoms and our expansive energy and our ability to travel and be more free, instead working with a more restrictive energy. So those are very kind of more faster pace energies that we were working with. And now we're going right into Taurus and Scorpio, which I'm going to talk about more in detail, and I'm going to share some holistic tips that you can work with as well. So what is the energy of Taurus that we're moving towards? Well, the energy of Taurus is if you think of the image of a bull, it seems very stubborn, but very strong and very earthly. It's the earth element. It's about Mother Earth and nature. Taurus is connected to Venus, so it's all about our values and our needs. It's also to do with finances, how we create finances and resources for ourselves. So all of these things are going to be grounded downwards. And remember, the Taurus energy of the bull is one that might seem very stubborn at first, but when it's full on, think of a bull charging forward. It's very intense, very quick, and it goes in a certain direction very fast with full fury. So think of that charging bull, and I think we're going to be moving towards that Taurus energy. And on the other side, the things that we're going to be releasing is to do with Scorpio energy. And Scorpio is well known for being one of the most intense energies. It's a water sign. So water, automatically you think about emotions and going with the flow. And these are very deep waters. They're not just superficial, shallow waters here. We're talking about things that are very hidden. Scorpio is to do with the shadow self. Scorpio is very much to do with the merging of others, how we share our energy with others, whereas Taurus is just about ourselves, our personal self. Scorpio is about how you merge with other people, other situations, even in finances, tax, businesses, things like that. How are you exchanging your energy with other people in many different situations? And it's also a time where a lot of hidden secrets are going to come up. We've already started seeing that, especially to do with sexuality. We're starting to see a lot of that in the media. So I highly recommend just observing the media, even if you're not going to fully watch it, because I know a lot of people don't want to watch mainstream news, which I completely understand. Believe me, I restricted a lot of media sources since 2020, but it's interesting to see how this plays out at the same time. So if you're doing it from a place of awareness, and also from an observational point of view, you can start to see that there's a lot of things from the hidden depths that are coming out to do with our structures in society, the things that we share our energy with on a daily basis. Structure is definitely one of those things. So, think about government, society, all the things that are the top of the pyramid, in terms of the different levels in society, which is very Capricorn, it's very vertical. It's unfolding. It's that unfolding of everything. And it's also the unfolding of who we are, to work with our fears and our shadow work. So a lot going on, as you can tell, and I want to break this down even further to some holistic tips on how, on a practical level, you can bring some of that energy so you can work more with the Taurus energy, and also do a lot of releasing with the Scorpio energy. And I've got my notes here, so I'll be looking a little bit this way, so don't mind me if I'm looking away from the camera. I just want to make sure that I have as much information in this video as possible for you guys to use. So, as I said, Taurus is connected to Venus. What are your values? What are your needs? We've been shifting so much since 2020. Some of us have just completely different lives because of everything that's been going on. Some of us have already been doing a lot of different releasing. It's been a difficult time, and I send a lot of energy to everyone because it's just definitely not been an easy time. And the energy of Venus, because it's connected to values and our needs, as we've changed, our values and needs have changed. So the first tip with Taurus is to really be clear, even write it in a journal, about what your values and needs are in different areas of your life, and be really clear. And what you can do is write a sort of an entry before and after. So before, maybe you valued a certain thing when it came to your job. Maybe now you value something completely different. So you can write it in almost like 2 columns, where you can see what it was before 2020 and what it is now, and start making those action tips to really be more aligned with what it is that you value and need. I think this is the point of awareness that we need to work from, and also where we plant our seeds into more fertile earth, which is that Taurus energy. So we're talking about values and needs, and we also have to remember that Venus, the planet connected to Taurus, is about the heart chakra. And we've been doing a lot of healing, but I think especially during this time, returning back into the grounded heart space, not being up here, but working downwards from the heart downwards is going to be very important. So if you want to work with your chakras, always root yourself into your heart space, which is the balancing chakra, and then work your way down and start clearing out the lower chakras. Ways that you can do this is through self-care. I mean, self-care is essential. Taurus energy is all about self-care and self-love. So really returning back to doing some self-care practices. And I have a great tip that you can see in the description box on how to start a self-care journal. Even if you're a very busy person, even if you have 3 minutes between your to-do list, you can start putting these little practices in place, and they all add up. It's amazing to see how many little spaces we have throughout the day that we can actually use to connect back into our heart space, connect back into our breath as well. Our heart space is very much connected, and the heart chakra is very much connected to our breathing exercises. So exercises connecting to the breath, opening the chest area. Breath of fire is brilliant, especially if you are facing your fears or any barriers, or you want to move forward in healing with courage and confidence. Working with breath of fire is incredible. And there's so many different ways that you can work with your breath, but really essentially returning back to the heart space and clearing out the lower chakras is going to be fantastic for building a really solid foundation from a heartfelt area, a heartfelt direction, not a fear-based one, because we've been going through so much of that fear energy in the last couple of years. So it's important to remind ourselves what it is that we value and need in terms of fear and love. So that choice between, am I doing this out of fear? Am I doing this out of love? And how can I nurture myself fully? That Taurus energy. Grounding is part of that lower chakra system. So there's so many ways to ground, but essentially getting back to the body, getting back to earth, doing things more in nature. Even if you're in a busy city, I know for myself, being in a busy city, sometimes that just means sitting in a local park, even if it's an artificial park, and just observing the seasons and trying to find ways where you can bring nature into your life much more than you have done maybe in the past. If you're lucky enough to live in the countryside, then make the most of it. If you are in the city, maybe start being creative with the way that you ground your energy and observe the seasons. And that includes the foods that you eat, which is very Taurus, maybe connecting more to seasonal foods. As we move through this Taurus North Node, we're going to start seeing how a lot of things to do with resources and food especially is going to be a highlight because there's been a lot of problems and issues and challenges with the food chain and the chain systems in our resources. So finding things locally and supporting businesses locally that help you ground yourself with the foods in your local environment and obviously the other resources in your local environment, so that you can be as self-sufficient as possible. Taurus is very self-sufficient. It likes to be grounded within itself, within the heart space, within knowing that you can take care of yourself fully if you have to. And I think we're all going to be challenged in many ways to be much more resourceful, much more grounded, and make choices where we can enjoy things that nurture us, And as I said, food is a very simple example. We're also seeing how, when we're talking about resources, how there's a lot of changes when it comes to resources and how we make money. So we've been embracing online technology, which was a Gemini energy. And now a lot of people are realizing that they don't necessarily have to be in the office or in their workspace. Obviously, some jobs you have to be, but a lot of people are quitting their jobs, or because of their changing values and needs, deciding that they want to do something completely different. So this is an opportunity, in the next 18 months, as well as building a foundation for your lifestyle, also looking at the way that you create resources for yourself, especially online, knowing that more people are open to online work and online businesses. And also being in spaces that support you. I know a lot of people move from the city to the country to be more in natural spaces and more open spaces, and often a lot more cheaper spaces than being in the city, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to be paying for a little small space when you can have something much bigger in the country, if you do have that option. So, looking at your environment and your resources and making some changes there so that you know that you have a backup plan, or something that you're working towards, even if it does take time. Obviously, businesses take time and effort to do, but I think a lot of people are going to start creating a lot more businesses around this time, which is exciting to see because there's a big evolution in many different fields related to this. The next tip is to slow everything down. I want to say I have a resistance when I say that, even though I'm saying this to you right now, because we've had so much restriction and slowing down in the last 2 years. But I'm talking about slow living in a way that we appreciate the much more simpler things in our life. Slow living is not about being unproductive. It's actually about conserving, recharging our own energy, and making sure that the way that we spend our energy, again, back to resources and including our energy exchanges, is done in such a way that we feel the pleasure and joy of it, if we can, as much as possible. So slowing your life down so that you can really simplify, which is the next tip, is to simplify the way that you exchange your energy with the world around you. What really matters to you? What can you strip away from your life that no longer serves you, so that you can simplify and use your energy to the best, in the best possible way, Yeah, so that's the Taurus energy. That's the energy that we're moving towards. And we're going to be doing a lot of releasing in the South Node. And Scorpio, as I mentioned, is intense. It's very supportive for cord cutting. So if you've been wanting to release a lot of old karma or old ties, for whatever reason you've been holding on to energy ties, this is a very good time for that. And as I said, it's intense, deep waters, but it's working with energy. Scorpio energy is a lot to do with the chakra system. So I'm seeing a lot of energy healing work happening, which is fantastic. I think more people are becoming interested in becoming therapists in this field, because I'm getting a lot more emails and connections about how to become a Reiki therapist, or how to work with more kind of holistic alternative therapies. And this is one of the trends that I'm going to be seeing as we talk about the South Node in Scorpio, because we've been dealing a lot with health. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see that there's a lot of movement for a more holistic approach, even from the medical fields, There's so many communities that are going to be formed and are being formed, where doctors and nurses are starting to be more open to the different services that they have on offer. And there's many reasons why this is happening. There's a lot of people resigning from the healthcare, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who are signing up to create a different healthcare system. So again, looking at the structures. But I mention this also because if you are thinking about working in this field, coming back to resources and how to make money, and also how to do something you love, if you have been thinking about becoming a therapist, anything to do with healthcare, mental health care, that's a very big one as well. Energy therapies, yoga, there's so many different types of things that you can get into when it comes to healthcare in general. If you are thinking about becoming it, now is a beautiful time actually to start thinking about planting seeds by getting trained, or starting to use this in your own life. Maybe finding a therapist who can help you with your shadow work. As I said, there's so many different types of therapies out there, but there is a huge highlight in this field, and I think it's going to expand even more. And I highly encourage anyone who's interested in becoming, or being part of this practice, or even exploring and dipping your toes in it to start, because there's going to be so much more on offer. And of course, we can talk about transformation, because Scorpio is that energy of death and rebirth, quite literally death and rebirth sometimes. Transformation means that there's a cocooning stage, which I think this cycle coming is going to be all about that cocoon, where we're still not out yet. We're not out of the cocoon. We're not the butterfly yet, but we are starting to see how everything is transforming and transitioning within our cocoon, and we're just building ourselves up to create those big changes. And some of us have already been doing that. So it depends where you are on your journey. Maybe you've already started doing a lot of that cocooning and transformational work, and it's about taking those actions. So ask yourself, where can I start taking small baby steps forward in the next 18 months? And it might be really scary, because it might be something completely out of our comfort zone. But transformation is always about something scary and unknown. And if it means starting again, building those foundations, I promise you, you are in the right time, the right moment to do so, because we're all in some way or another planting these seeds for transformation. And the baby steps are the ones that count. Sometimes we really look far ahead in what we want to achieve, thinking, how am I going to get there? But if you can just focus on maybe the next 2 steps, instead of thinking, okay, from here to there, I want to suddenly become a great online life coach, random example. And right now I have no idea how to start. Right, what's the next step? Just working in that, literally that practical way of going step by step and really tuning into your intuition, because Scorpio energy is about that intuitive self. It's about knowing that you're going to be guided into the next step and the next stage, but you have to also anchor yourself in each stage so that you can enjoy each part of the journey. It's so easy, and I find myself in the past doing this, getting caught up with where I want to go and then not fully enjoying where I am. And then when I actually reach that place, I look back and think, hold on, did I really enjoy the process? Even though I've achieved what I want to achieve, and I manifested and I worked hard for what it is I wanted, did I really enjoy the journey? And if I'm being very honest with you, on a personal level, there have been many times where I look back and think, I wish I just slowed down, enjoyed each stage, enjoyed each step, even if it was stressful, and just made the most of it, so that in the future, I know I really lived through the whole process. And that's what transformation is, grounding in each stage, each step, taking those small little actions. So I hope that inspires someone out there who's going through some transformation. And again, working with the solar plexus and the heart, these 2 chakras together, amazing for moving forward past the fears and the doubts and the barriers, So yeah, solar plexus, heart, and also the root chakra. Amazing. Sometimes you can combine chakras together, so I'm just giving you ideas in ways that you can combine your heart space with other chakras, especially the lower chakras. Right, so the next tip is reevaluating how you share your energy with people closest to you. And this also means relationships. And this is hard, I think, sometimes, because we've been through so much. And especially during lockdown, a lot of us have spent more time than ever with people that we didn't spend time with before, because maybe we were out all day working or things like that, So it's about reevaluating how our closest relationships are, and working with that, with simplifying again the energy exchanges of how we're connecting to others. We've all shifted, and sometimes it means sitting down with the people closest to us and sharing how we've changed, and also having that interchange with them and having some honest talk about the things that they have also changed in when it comes to needs and values. So we're seeing a lot of transformation when it comes to these types of relationships and these types of things that mean a lot to us in our life. And the next one is about Kundalini awakening. This is one of my favorite ones because Scorpio is very much the root chakra of potential Kundalini awakenings. So I think the next 18 months, a lot of people are going to be interested in how spiritual and Kundalini awakening plays out. So watch this space, maybe you will start having more activations when it comes to that type of awakening. So it's going to be very interesting, especially in my sessions working with energy and my clients, to see how they change throughout this whole process. And of course, when we're talking about the root chakra and the second chakra, we have to talk about sexual energy, which is also a form of creative energy. So again, working with people closest to you, especially your sexual partner, how can you make it even more spiritual? And well, I say spiritual, but in a way that you feel more authentically open. So breaking down those old barriers with your partner, if you have one, or just using the sexual energy for your creativity in some way or another, but really using that energy, which is very powerful, as well as the Kundalini energy, to break down, to shift, to release, to do all those things that are breaking old karmic patterns. And actually, when I'm talking about relationships, remember, our relationships are showing us different patterns and cycles. You can notice how sometimes you release an old toxic relationship, but you still attract the same patterns in different people. So it's the same with everything. When we're releasing old karma, then more of it shows up to challenge us to see if we're going to react the same way. So if you are doing a lot of releasing, maybe you can start observing what old patterns are showing up, and sometimes it shows up even more intensely, which is a Scorpio energy, to push us in the direction to do something completely different. So in the example I gave you with toxic relationships, how are you going to deal with the same patterns if it comes up again in a future partner, or even when you're going out dating again for a potential partner? If you see that, how are you going to react differently? And even just having the awareness of the breaking those cycles is very powerful. So that's a good journal exercise. Write down all the different cycles that are coming up in different forms, maybe in different situations and different people, but still presenting itself even more, because that will confirm to you the awareness, and then you can make the decision on how you want to move forward with it in a much more grounded way. And yeah, the last tip I want to give is very much the Scorpio energy, and I mentioned it already, about facing your deepest fears and your shadow work. You are supported. This is a supportive time for shadow work, and if you can't do it on your own, find professionals who can help you. The last couple of years, mental health has been a big issue. Well, it's always been an issue everywhere in the world, but what I meant is the focus now is on mental health and healthcare, which is great because there's more awareness on the different services out there and the different types of professions that can help you break through some of those old past deep things that we've been holding on to. Sometimes they've been so hidden within ourselves that we didn't even know about. And I think this is a time where a lot of that's going to come to surface, which of course is not easy, but seek help. I highly recommend seeking help. If it's not something that you can do alone, seek help, or find ways that you can try new things that will really support you, especially if you're going through things. Maybe start connecting to people or communities that share information. So it's a lot about diving really deep within and being very clear and honest about what is left over. It just reminds me of a lake. So if you can visualize this big, vast lake, and people not knowing what's right at the bottom of that lake until it's drained out, or there's a drought or something like that, and seeing what's really underneath that lake for so many centuries. Or I'm just getting this vision of, for some reason, I'm getting this vision of a very murky lake where no one has really been to the depths of it, and then a situation comes up with the earth, which is very Taurus energy. We're going to get a lot of different surprises and situations with nature, where that water clears up and we start seeing what's underneath, and we start shifting through all those things underneath so that we can finally clear it out. And it's going to be a very interesting time. So always work with the heart space no matter what you do. I hope some of these tips help you in some way, and as I mentioned before, I will have a link in the description box so you can have a look at this in writing, and with many more tips and resources that you can connect with. So yeah, a big long introduction to this very special time. I hope it inspired someone out there. And I will be back soon with some more videos sharing my thoughts and holistic tips and whatever inspires me with you in the future. So have a beautiful day. Take care of yourselves. Satnam.